Call back the meeting to order now. We are on new business, item A, discuss and consider city hourly employee pay schedule. Staff report, please.
Yes, this is an item that the City Council discussed a number of months ago in relationship to the minimum wage citywide that was being discussed by the Economic Development Subcommittee. One of Council Member O'Connell said that she wanted to look at what we specifically do for our city employees, and if the City Council wanted to do something ahead of what we were going to do citywide to set an example. What you have before you is that right now there are a few positions that we still pay under the $15 an hour. There are less now than there were when I wrote the staff report back in July, since the City Council increased the recreation leader position to $15 an hour and then increased the senior recreation leader position. I will say that has actually been very successful for us. We had 2 recreation leaders that we have hired, and we have, I think, another 2 that we're hoping to be in the process. And at this point in time, we did have to open the senior recreation leader position up, and we've had 4 applicants for the senior recreation position. Good. So we're very, as staff, we're very thankful that the City Council gave us that ability to pay more for those positions. It seems like it is helping us do better recruitment. So, I have not updated the staff report since July, so I apologize for that. But if we were to go to a $15 an hour citywide minimum rate, there would be a number of positions that would need to be increased, or there would have been, but the recreation leader aide, which is still one of those that we would need to increase. The recreation leader aide is a position where it's usually high school students, and they are usually, it's their first job, and they're in assistance to, they aid our programs, and it's more for our summer program, because that's when high school students are more available. We don't often find very many high school students who want to do that, though. So it's not a position we fill very often, but we do have it available. We would also need to increase the lifeguard position slightly as well. And then what happens is, as you start increasing, the same thing that happened with the recreation leader and the senior recreation leader, as you increase one position at the bottom, then the next step up needs to get increased. Otherwise, you're not getting a pay raise when you get promoted. So back in July, the cost of increasing the bottom range to $15 an hour would have been $120,000. We've already taken a portion of that by increasing the recreation leader and the senior recreation leader. However, there are different alternatives to doing that depending on what the City Council would like to accomplish. Another issue that I think happens with some of our facility attendants and recreation leaders positions and our lifeguards is that we do have very long-term employees. I mean, if you think about our facility attendants, there are facility attendants who work for us who were here maybe even before Madison was born. We have some very long-term. We have some very long-term. I know that we have a number of people who were here before I started working 16 years ago for the city. And, they get to the top of their range and they are topped out and there's no place else for them to go. And it becomes very difficult for them to over the years, it becomes more difficult for them to really make ends meet because these are not high-paying jobs, but it's a job that they're committed to and they want to stay, and that's, I think, why they do it. So, one suggestion for doing something different for, longer-term employees as opposed to just all employees is to increase the number of steps that we have for some of these lower-paying jobs. So instead of right now we have a 5-step program, we can increase that to a 10-step range. And what you do is you just continue to do the 5%, and that way people would continue to progress through how much money they're able to make. And it also is a recognition for, as they are with us longer, they become better at their job, and they become more familiar with their job. They become more familiar with the events as a facility attendant. They become more familiar with the people who are attending the events, and just become better employees. So, I mean, that would be one potential. What we do for employees who are full-time employees who are with the city, and Maria would probably correct me, but I think it's 12 years, is we provide a week of longevity leave. So we already do recognize full-time employees who who've been with us for an extended period of time, and we don't have that same ability to provide that for our part-timers, because that's what these positions are. These are our part-time positions, and giving them a week of leave just means that they don't get paid, or they get paid minimally, and taking a week of leave as a part-timer is different than taking a week of leave as a full-time employee. So the way to recognize longevity for part-timers may be to increase the range and to add additional steps so people take longer to progress through and top out. A third method, and it always depends on the situation, is that we may want to offer health care benefits to part-timers who have more than 10 years of service with the city. So again, a recognition for long-term service, not a recognition for the short turnaround employees, but those who have longer. We already abide by the Affordable Care Act, but the Affordable Care Act is based on the number of hours you work, and it's not just, it's not based on, your longevity to the city and your commitment to the city. And Maria did. She just texted me and told me for general employees, it's 15 years for longevity leave. I knew she was going to correct me. I knew it. So those are the three basic types of alternatives. One is to increase everybody's range, from increase everybody at the lower end, and then keep the 5 steps. Another alternative would just be to recognize people who have longer commitments with the city, either through increasing the number of steps that they have available, or through providing an additional health benefit that we currently provide.
Any questions?
No questions.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
So Stuart, the council has increased the amount that we per hour for our recreation leaders.
Yes.
And also our senior
Recreation leader.
So what are the new? Just refresh my memory.
So the recreation leader now starts at $15 an hour.
It starts at 15 an hour.
Yes.
Okay,
and the senior recreation leader, I'm thinking it's $17.19, $17.26.
Okay.
And I might get a text that tells me differently.
Okay. Okay, so 17 something. And then in here you had it at
1082.
yeah, so recreation leader was at 1174 and
Correct.
topped out at 1427.
Yes.
So now that's totally thrown out the window. And
Yes.
what would be the tops out for the recreation leader? Or is that built into?
Well, it's already built into what we do. It's 5 steps of
would it
5%.
be 1823?
So 15 times.
I mean, that's what you have in 8.
Yes.
So it'd be 1823.
Right.
So
That would
so now the recreation leader is what you have for the aid.
Excuse me, what? I'm still getting texts. I apologize.
Okay, so what you have in that paragraph where it says under, the first paragraph for discussion, under discussion. So it says that I'm
Yes.
the aid. What you have here for the aid is now what you're proposing for the aid is what the current recreation leader now makes.
Right.
Start at $15, and tops out at 1823.
Correct.
Okay. Then of course you can't have the recreation leader aid be the same starting pay as the position that's above them.
Correct. So we would probably need to, if we were to do that, we would need to look at increasing the recreation leader position as well. And the challenge for that one is I don't know if we would need to increase it a lot over what the recreation leader aide makes, because it's two very different kinds of positions. As I said, the recreation leader aide is much more of a, of a summer job, whereas the recreation leader has turned to be more of an ongoing position where, people are with us, for a number of years and, work throughout the school year. And the $15 seems to have gotten us over the hump for the moment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with the recreation leader aide position, their hours would be limited just because of seasons.
Correct. And correct, because if you think about a high school student, they don't come back into Brisbane until after 3:30, and our program is already starting before then.
Well, I think if we've gotten such positive response to go to $15 an hour for the recreation leader,
It took us a little bit, but yeah.
There'd be a lot of folks that would be fine being a recreation leader aide at around $15. I mean, I think you wouldn't have the high school students anymore. I mean, they'd like to get the job, but I think you'd also be getting a lot of adults that would be happy with getting the $15 an hour, because that's considerably more than the current minimum wage in San Mateo County.
Mm-hmm.
It's like $4 an hour more, right?
Correct.
All right. I do like the idea of increasing the wage in regards to keeping employees. I think if they can make an amount that allows them to provide for their basic needs, they're more inclined to stay. Of course, as the economy continues to get better, there are other job opportunities, and they're looking for positions that will pay more. But say we had something that was for the aid that was higher than the minimum wage, but definitely lower than the $15 amount. I mean, that's an option.
That is an option. I think when you talk from a, and I this is where I go. So you talk about a theoretical perspective. These are more supplemental jobs, or jobs where people are not as dependent on. They should not be as dependent on them for their primary source of income. And the reason being is, if you think about it, if you earn $17 an hour, and if you work, we try and limit our part-timers to 1,000 hours. We have a few that do. We have a number that do work more. But if you're working 2,000 hours, so if you work a full 40-hour work week and you're making $17 an hour, you're making $34,000 a year.
Yeah, no,
so
that's hard.
It would be difficult to live in Brisbane at that level. So we hope that these are more supplemental positions. But you're right, for something like a recreation leader aide, somebody who's in high school, probably we could hire people for less than $15 an hour. But at some point, we're going to need to get up there, because that's going to be the statewide minimum wage.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why Councilmember O'Connell said we should take the lead in that.
So in the recreation leader aide position at the 1082 an hour, was it difficult to find high school students or others to take that position?
It has been difficult. I mean, we don't hire very many. It's not because as a high school student you can go work at In-N-Out Burger for $14 or $15 an hour already.
Or you can come work at Madhouse and get tips.
Right. I mean, that's the challenge. As we are, these are positions that are very at the low end, and we're competing with a number of other jobs that are at the low end, and the low end jobs are, from a economic perspective, fortunately going up.
Yes.
But
Okay.
that of course will increase all costs.
All right. Those are my questions for staff.
Okay, thank you. Harry?
So one of the reasons I brought this up was I did see a problem with being able to hire, competent people at, 1082 an hour. But the main reason was that I see a lot of our people who are part-time staff. They work a lot of hours. They're always working. They're our go-to people. when I have an issue up at the Mission Blue, I know I can call somebody and get somebody to answer my question, or get somebody to help unlock the door early for me, or they step up for things. And that's where I wanted to have the recognition is with our long-term part-time staff that really didn't have anywhere to grow their jobs, except if we were to make them full-time staff, which I understand some of the drawbacks to on both sides of the fence, as far as them wanting flexibility and us having the ability to have flexible hours for late night parties, for early morning rec hours, for different things. That part-time or split shift makes a lot of sense for a city to have that ability. But I really wanted to give those people, and there's probably 10 or 15 of them that are in our part-time group that really are who I was looking for to make them have a job that they could actually sustain themselves on. And one of the big things is the ability to have health insurance, and not at a prorated amount, but have a basic, decent health care plan that could apply to them, and to have more steps where they didn't max out and now they feel that they love their job, they know their job, we rely on them, and to find a way to reward them. So I would personally like staff to come back with a combination of the extended steps where they can get to a higher step and keep having merit increases and cost of living increases that go along with that, just like any employee has, and have the ability to have health care. I know that several of them who have been with the city a long time have other methods for their health care. They've had to because, whether they're retired or they have a spouse who gets health care, that's the only thing that allows them to be able to do this as a part-time job, is that they've got those options. But I would really like to see something where we either allow some of our long-term people who are pretty close to working full-time, if not working full-time hours, just not on a regular shift, to have both a higher wage and have the ability to have health care.
Sure.
And that's where I was coming from when I brought this up. It's not so much nitpicking down to the senior recreation aid, or the aid making $11 versus $11.50. I think that's sort of self-limiting on where we can hire people.
Longevity, right?
I want to reward the longevity and
Absolutely.
make it where these people can actually afford to feel good about and passionate about the jobs like they are currently.
Yeah, well, also, when you talk about, rewarding longevity, you're also making a statement that for the new people that come in, we want you to be here for a long time
Yeah.
too, right? And so, what you're suggesting is a pathway to be able to be a part-time employee, but we're also very respectful of the work that you do, and you should be rewarded. And it's unfortunate that healthcare isn't just a right for everybody, but maybe one of these days it will be. But if you've worked long enough, and for the city, that it should be part of your package. I agree.
And if somebody's working, and I don't know if we have anybody that works 2 hours a day or something, I can see that being different than somebody who's working 34 or 40 hours and working for
Right.
different departments and
Right. I mean,
doing different things.
if the city council would like, what we can look at is, say if you've averaged over 30 hours in the past, 6 months, and that you have more than 10 years of experience with us, 10 years of service with us, we could do we would pay for the Kaiser single employee rate, which is $780 a month at this point, looking at my text. But so the other side of it is, working through a method of figuring out some other type of longevity benefit that wouldn't create expectations amongst all employees. I mean, as much as I suggested that, maybe going to additional steps, the challenge with that is, when I then when we sit at the table for the next round of negotiations with full-time employees, and they go, well, these employees have 10 steps, why don't I get 10 steps?
Because they're not making $34,000 a year.
And I understand that. That's,
Because you don't.
but I mean,
It's a very different thing for $65,000 a year employees than $34,000 a year employees, in my mind.
right. But and that'll be part of the conversation. I'll need to we as staff will work through is recognizing it as a longevity, just like we do recognize full-time employees with longevity, and trying to figure out how do we do that without as you've sat through enough
firestorm.
You've sat through enough negotiations that you understand that expectations creates challenges during negotiations. So
Yes, and what 10% is on $10 an hour and 10% on $40 an hour is way different when you look at your paycheck.
right.
So, quick question. Well, what I was thinking originally, because I thought there were like 3 different options to choose from, I almost thought it would be interesting to like poll our group that falls in this area and ask them, like, if we just had to pick one solution, which one would you prefer? And for me, my immediate reaction was like healthcare, because I think that's so important that people have not only healthcare but like good healthcare, and where you're not constantly having to pay out of pocket for everything, because your healthcare basically doesn't cover you at all, because there are plans that exist like that where you're paying out of pocket all the time. But then I started thinking, like what you mentioned, is maybe people have spouses and they already have health care that's covered. So I think it might be interesting to connect with them and see what they're thinking. But if there was a way we could do both the second option and the third option, which is additional steps plus providing health care should those employees need it, I think that would be my ideal situation. But
So just from a personnel perspective, if we were to start asking the part-timers what they would want,
they're just going to come up with whatever.
well, no, I'm not concerned about that. That would be treating them as if they were a bargaining group,
Expectations, absolutely.
Okay.
and they are not a bargaining group. So this is the one area where the city council can actually make a decision on it, and that would be my concern. And for those employees who already have health insurance, what we do currently for employees who have health insurance is that the money that we would put towards, we do give a dollar amount just as into their cafeteria plan that they can take in a number of ways. So if they do have health insurance through a spouse or through another job, then that actually could be potentially money into their paycheck. It could be money into a 457 plan for retirement. It could be money into the health savings account where they could pay their deductibles and other things. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe looking at it from that longevity health insurance might actually be able to solve all of the issues that we're trying to deal with without really getting into other challenges.
I think that's a good idea. I also would be hesitant to say, okay, everyone who's averaged over 30 hours, per week for the last however many months, because, I don't know how many people, if we look at, like, let's say we have 10 people who are long-term part-timers, how many of them would they all satisfy that? Like, I think it would be interesting, because what if we had quite a few that didn't fall in that, and then there are like a lot of people who end up getting left out who are still in that bucket. So I would want to make sure that that's something we take into consideration, because I'd like to get as many of the people in this group cared for, because how much would it suck if you were at like 27 and there were just 2 people and the rest all got it and you didn't? I mean,
No, and I agree. I mean, I think that staff needs to come back with how we direct them and give us some, a clue on our budgetary requirements. But that was the effect that I was looking for, and I have spoken with some of the part-time employees and said, and which is the only reason I know that some have health care through other ways. So, just the offering them health care without having it as also as a ability to take the stipend instead wouldn't necessarily make everybody happy. But to do it that way, I think would be a good bridge into that. And obviously, when we have people who have been here for 20 years as a part-time employee, they either like having that flexibility or there's some reason that they're staying with that. It works for them. So we wouldn't want to say, oh, you have to be full-time or we have to make you a full-time employee.
Right.
But I'd like to figure out a way to make that and make it as equitable as we can, because most of our salaries for all our bargaining groups are attractive, especially when you look at the retirement benefits and the health benefits. It's an attractive situation to work in a government nowadays. Maybe not as lucrative as private industry at times, but certainly more steady and with a known outcome. So I want to keep it being attractive for our part-time people.
I think also if you looked at like the stipend, I think it's like what, 750 around there a month. Even if you had additional steps, I mean, to take like a lump sum extra each month if you already have your health care taken care of, that like would be a significant amount, and I think would like achieve the
Goal.
what we would accomplish with the steps, if not more than that. So I think that that's a good balance.
Clark?
Come back with something. But
And just make it work. That's what I'm hearing.
Just make it work, but I don't want to adopt it.
No.
No.
Not like this.
No. Let me finish. I don't want to adopt it before we adopt our next budget, to where it goes into effect like in February.
Okay.
I'd rather it be part of our next budget so that we understand
Okay.
what the effects of it will be. Because in here, you're using number $120,000 for if we did this full program. What do we pay out right now, totally?
Okay.
I mean, because that might be 50% increase or something along those lines. So I don't even know. That's the full program, but I get the gist of where you want to go with it. See what you come up with.
So, and just so I have like a parameter to work with, is 10 years a good number to start with?
I think it's a good
Right,
number.
because what I will do is I will run a report and say, here, those part-timers who've had more than 10 years experience, here's on average what they've worked over the past, and then figure out how do we make it work for those people?
Give a tie tack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, today was my 12-year anniversary with Mercury Insurance.
What did you get?
TAC. We'll give them a nice
A day playing in the rain, looking at wrecked cars,
Yeah.
and a big.
Good job.
I bet we already have a lot of longevity. Like it seems like compared to a lot of other municipalities,
Yeah.
we have a great staff that's been here for a while. I mean, including the people sitting here. So, I think this would just be rewarding the work that.
I know we tried
For our
to extend
part-timers,
meetings,
yeah.
so
Yeah, even for part-timers.
And, and
Yeah.
those part-timers,
Right.
I'm sure most of them
Trying to-
live in town.
And a lot of people choose to be part-time because, it works with their
Okay.
family schedule.
If I may, Madam Mayor, let's kind of move on,
Yes.
please.
Happy to do so. Okay. Okay, moving on to staff reports. City manager's report on upcoming activities.
We have a meeting on this upcoming Tuesday evening and a closed session, a couple closed sessions that evening also. You have we have our Festival of Lights on Sunday, December 3rd. And then the next regular city council meeting is not until December 14th.
Okay,
Just an FYI, I might be late to the meeting or the Festival of Lights. My wife is catching a flight, international flight, so I have to drop her off at the airport.
okay. Well, it's a good thing I'll be there to give the speech.
I'm not giving it. You are.
You're not. No, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Tonight.
didn't say nothing to you.
Is there reserved?
Just saying, Okay, we'll wait.
Is there reserved seating for council members, or is it only the elderly? I'm vaguely trying to remember what the.
Elderly council members. No, I'm kidding. I don't know what it was.
Sorry, you don't qualify.
I'm out.
Everybody but Madison gets a seat.
Wow, thanks guys. So appreciate it.
I know we do it for for people who need seating.
It's
So
never
if
usually-
you-
I don't need a seat. I just was wondering if that was something I did in the past because I couldn't remember.
No.
But there's seats available. I mean,
There are
I
seats
don't-
available, and we reserve some for people who require to be able to sit for that full hour and a half that it takes for the program.
A few times that I've
Hour,
done
about an
it.
hour between the dancing and the singing and Santa coming, because it takes Santa a little bit of time to.
yeah.
Yeah.
I always
From so far
position
away.
myself where I have a clear line to the cookie table.
Well, they might be.
Don't go taking my
They
spot.
might give you some pre-cookies, huh?
I just
Stuart
gave it away.
No.
Okay.
But in the past, I know that for me, when I was mayor, that I'd always introduce the council members, and they'd be spread out all
Oh,
over the place to say wave.
okay. Good.
So it never had. It was always for the seniors.
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
So let me know where you'll be.
I mean, if you would like, we could have a section for council members.
No, I don't need special treatment.
I was
It's nice.
I was thinking the other four, Madison.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So
A dunk tank in the winter. That'd be.
I'm now extending the meeting far beyond than I should. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Plus.
All right. So moving on. So now we are under mayor and council matters. We're going to now item B, consider support for Senate Bill 705 to phase out polystyrene food takeout containers statewide. So we have a letter that I received asking if we would support this Senate bill, which we've already done in our city.
Yes.
So,
We've done an ordinance, and to send them a copy of it. I mean, in the spirit of it, I mean, I think that's what we did with our ordinance. But I don't know what all the facts are behind this,
Yeah.
because apparently some people are really a little bit reticent about doing it, and it may be affecting people's jobs in their district or something like that. So I don't, necessarily.
do we know how Senator Hill voted on this, or have we reviewed the language to see if it fits? No. Okay. Well, I-
Maybe with that, Madam Mayor, if we got Senator Hill's advice on like where he's going, and if he said, yeah, this would be good for San Mateo County, then I would be inclined to allow you to, on behalf of the council, to support it.
Well, the whole county
But
of
it's-
San Mateo has an ordinance. I mean, every city in San Mateo County has an ordinance
no
that has
styrofoam.
banned polystyrene.
Yes, but ours is written a certain way, of course.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a statewide effort, and,
So-
and I think we should support it.
This
But
is
but I'm just hearing your concerns.
this is to get rid of manufacturers, period. And so I don't know. I mean, I think it's a good idea to probably communicate with Jerry, but I don't know what background is. It's because it fell short of passage on the Senate floor, and they
Well-
said it was a deceptive campaign by chemical and plastics industry, and it could be, but I don't really know.
so I would suggest having our staff and city attorney look at this to see, what effect it would have on our businesses, and to make sure it's not more restrictive than our current ordinance, and see what Senator Hill's position on it is, and you can bring it back at a following council meeting.
Is our current ordinance no styrofoam? Is that no styrofoam food containers?
Mhm.
Because I think there are some businesses that use those, which we can talk about offline. But what happens in that instance? I don't know that I was around for that
A couple
ordinance
years ago.
I think-
previously.
I could be wrong about this, but I think the county health department enforces on that.
They do.
Yeah.
And they do when the health inspector comes and does their inspections and stuff like that, which you
Go off.
never really know. They generally do them once or twice a year.
Okay.
The environmental health comes from the county, and I know that. Because
So this letter is asking to do two things: adopt the resolution supporting SB 705 and to commit to introducing an ordinance. We've already done number 2, so I don't think there's any.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is we just need to make sure to review SB 705 and make sure that it's consistent with our ordinance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would be inclined to just
Approve it.
support it.
Yeah.
Right, but I hear your concern, Clark. So if
Yeah, I don't know what the effect of it is. I mean, because, if our representative supports it already, then what's it matter?
because again, it's a statewide thing, and obviously we got a tremendous amount of plastic pollution in our oceans that we need to step up and say no, you can't do this anymore.
I agree, but
Okay.
Well, with regards to the mystery of your own legislator, he was a co-sponsor, so.
Okay,
Oh.
you know what? I'm
Let's just
yeah.
do it.
I make a motion to support Senate Bill 705.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
okay,
opposed?
how do we want
Only a
to?
voting thing, but
Okay, so we will adopt a resolution supporting SB 705.
We'll bring a resolution back.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, that was easy.
Item C, recruitment for commission and committee vacancies. Staff report? We have a staff report with you, Clerk.
I think we really need to get the word out that we have
A ton.
a ton of openings, and to reach out to our current commissioners and committee members to see if they're still willing to serve. This has been updated. We do have at least one planning commissioner seat, and then
Open space and ecology, we have a letter from Michael Abney who resigned.
right.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we have at least one open seat there, so can we put something out in the Star and the Luminary and on the websites and try to get some interest, and maybe, I know the terms are expiring in January, and we probably wouldn't get to interviews and all that, so maybe we could see if the current commissioners would extend and try to do till February for interviews.
I'd rather interview them. I'd rather interview the commissioners in January. We'll have a new council, and I think it's prudent to just go ahead and go through the interviews,
Okay.
interview them in January.
I
Yeah.
agree.
I mean, if you look at the staff report in the last paragraph, their terms are automatically extended until such time as
So
you replace them.
something's filled.
Okay.
Can we add the Public Art Committee to the list of openings?
Oh yeah.
I'm
Sure.
sorry, I didn't catch that before.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you.
How many members would that have?
I haven't looked at the implementation guideline recently, but I think it's a couple of members from the council, a couple of members from the Parks and Recreation Commission, a representative of the business community, a representative of the public, and somebody from the public who has an arts background, I believe.
Okay. Okay.
But I'll get with Ingrid on that.
All right. Sounds good.
Alrighty.
Moving on to countywide assignments, subcommittee reports. Anyone have anything to report?
Nothing since last week.
I do. So I had a CCAG meeting last Thursday, and wanted to let my council colleagues know that the three applications that we put in for the funding of these transportation, it was pedestrian and
BPAC.
yeah. So I mean, the BPAC, is the one that decides, they rank
Gets
the
the money.
project, who's going to get the money. All three of our projects were the bottom three.
Wow.
And so there was a presentation by former council member from Half Moon Bay, Marina Fraser. And so after she gave her presentation, she was going to sit down. I said, "Oh, excuse me, Chair Alicia Aguirre, I want to ask some questions." And so, because I wanted to understand, here we have this one project, which is the stairway from San Benito down to Alvarado, which connects kids to the safe routes to school pathway, why is a project like that at the bottom? And so she said, well, there wasn't that much money, and she talked about this project in Atherton that was awarded the funds, one of the 5 projects. And so her thing was, so I asked her, well, is there something that our city can do in order to make us more favorable in getting this money? And she says, well, really, it's all about the amount of money. So we just need more funding. And that was her thing. So I didn't go into a bigger deal about it. But it isn't so much like where it got ranked. It's really about how it was evaluated. And so there's going to be another round of funding. It's going to be about $5 million. But because our evaluation for these projects were so low, they'll always be at the bottom. And so I have reached out to the chair. We've played some phone tag. Because also the BPAC, as you recall, did not fund our Crocker Park Trail project, even though there was enough money. And we met all the criteria, yet they added additional criteria that went above and beyond what the application had actually required. In the end, of course, we got the money because the CCAG board approved it.
Also, you got to give yourself credit for that. I mean, like you did you pulled a cliff.
So, well, thank you. So, but we need to.
That's what I was hoping you were going to tell me you did just now. You pulled another cliff.
I couldn't, no.
I was waiting for it.
Because there wasn't enough money. And it wasn't the right setting to do it. But, yeah, so I did talk with Emily Beach from Burlingame, and she's on that BPAC. And she's a great council member. They are so fortunate to have her. And she is new to the BPAC, and she is getting acquainted with how you prepare your applications to be seen in a favorable light with the BPAC. So there's a certain way of doing it, and so we're going to get together and then hopefully share that with staff so that the next time that there's some funding, we stand a good chance of getting some of that money.
That's great.
Yeah. And then the other thing I was, on the commit.org board, and we had our meeting this morning, and a couple things. One is, commute.org is an awesome organization. They are so innovative. I mean, they're that agency that every time I go to my meetings, I'm always just, inspired, and so they've come up with this program where if you're part of the commute.org shuttle system, they'll send you a text to let you know that your shuttle is running late. It's just, pretty cool.
Where's my shuttle?
Yeah. And then they also have this thing called Guaranteed Ride Home. So if you're someone who is using vanpool or carpool, you're taking a bike, to work, and you're hoping to take the shuttle back home, and there's a problem with getting back from work or from college, say community college. They have this program. If you sign up, and they have this thing called a STAR platform. It's part of being part of commute.org. They will refund you the cost of taking Uber or Lyft.
Yeah, that's been around for 30 years in a lot of places. So.
Yeah, but this is a new program.
Yeah.
They just came out with it.
Yeah, I'm saying that, but the concept's been around for a long time. So.
Oh, no, for sure, with commute.org. But they just keep adding all these different creative ways to make sure that hey, if you're thinking about commuting in a different way other than driving yourself, we're making it easier. And
Good, let's get him to throw that school bus in there. Now. Get creative, huh, Stuart? Get creative with
Get all our students to sign up for Guaranteed Ride Home.
I need a driverless shuttle.
Well, okay, now I'm glad you brought that up.
Electric vehicle.
So Jeff G is our chair And again, another great council member in the county, and so he's the transportation guy, of all the council members in the county. And so he went to this conference in Georgia, and they do it every 3 years because it's so big that it takes 3 years just to organize it. And it's called the American Public Transportation Association Conference. And so he was talking about these the self-driving buses, and how in Vegas they're doing this pilot program. Now it's on a current route, but by the time they have this next conference, they will have buses that will just be on demand, right? So as we were thinking and planning for the Baylands, as in our development agreement, I mean, we want folks in Brisbane to be able to have access to good public transportation. And these buses, and they're all electric, right? So zero emissions and autonomous vehicles, where they could be on demand for Brisbane folks. I mean, that future is here. It's just right on that doorstep. So I thought it was just kind of interesting, that he shared that, and just something for us to think about when we're doing the planning process.
Great. Well, thank you for
So,
sharing. Anything from you, Clark? Madison?
Nope.
Okay. So I have two things I went to, and one of them was the Age-Friendly City Summit it was put together by Supervisor David Canepa, and this was really great after having the presentation on Brisbane Village Helping Hands to hear about what the county is doing and what other nonprofits are doing to help seniors in our county. And the goal of this summit was basically to see if the cities within the county can work together to form maybe a special district or like a JPA that all work towards achieving the status of an age-friendly city. And there's World Health Organization guidelines on what that means. And in Santa Clara County, they've done this already. So we at the summit we were talking about looking at that Santa Clara County as a model. And this was the first meeting that it was just kind of putting out feelers to the countywide, to the cities and to the nonprofits, to the villages, to figure out, is this something that we're interested in? And, if so, then, Supervisor Canepa would kind of make the case to his colleagues at the Board of Supervisors that this is something that the county should provide funding for local projects that work on creating age-friendly cities. So, and each city, ideally, maybe there would be like 4 or 5 cities in the county to start off with, with pilot projects on, what they're doing in their communities to be age-friendly. It could be a helping, the village helping hands, or it could be anything else. It would vary city by city. And so in a year, they're going to have another summit where they'll talk about next steps. But this was sort of the kickoff, and it was really interesting. And then I got an email from Nancy Coleman because she wasn't able to attend, but she really wanted to hear about it. So I wrote back. I copied you and Clay, the city manager, as well. So that was a really good summit. And then just 2 days ago, I went to Connect 17, which if you are interested in transportation, you should definitely go to it next year, Cliff. And I encourage all of you to go. So Connect 17 is an annual, it's always Connect, whatever the year is. So this year was Connect 17. And it was, the theme was disruptive technologies that impact our communities. And I think that's something that, Karen Cunningham, when she's on the council, that she'll probably be interested in too, because they talk a lot about autonomous vehicles. And so it's put on by Assemblymember Kevin Mullen, as well as Assemblymember Mark Berman, and in connection with Sam Sita. And this year they had speakers talking about different technologies, dealing with big data, dealing with autonomous vehicles, electric buses. There's a company in Burlingame called Proterra that makes batteries that are used in electric buses. And right now they're just commercial. But, I was thinking at that conference, wouldn't it be great if like they could work with commute.org or even school districts to get electric buses? That would be amazing. And so the whole talk about, especially on the transportation side, they had someone there from Lyft as well, and they said their goal is to think about autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, and shared riding like Lyft and Uber, and bring those all together with the common goal of getting people to not feel like they have to have a car, to get people to take some sort of shared or public transportation to help ultimately with the environmental issues. So I thought it was a really informative conference, and next year I would, if you get the email, be on the lookout for it. I would encourage you all to attend. There were a lot of council members from various cities throughout the county.
Is that Facebook, right?
This one was at Gilead in Foster
Gilead,
City.
okay.
And there were some city staff there. The city manager of Pacifica was there. I don't know if it's something we get notified, if staff gets notified about, the Connect conferences, but I think it'd be good to send staff people as well.
Yeah, I got the email on it.
Yeah, and I'd seen it in the past, but I had never been able to go, but I always heard about it after the fact, and this year I was available, so.
I think I went to Connect 15.
Yeah, and it's a free conference,
Yeah.
so there's, it's just good information. So that's it from me. City council meeting schedule. Well, you heard Clay. We've got.
Look,
Was
you
that-
have-
You have a minimal level of interest in
You
this, is
see
what
my
you're saying?
smile, getting bigger.
So for January, I was proposing that we have just one meeting and meet on the 11th. The 18th is a weekend, or the week that the League of Cities does their annual new mayor and council members, and Councilmember-elect Cunningham was going to attend that. So that would probably be a good reason to cancel that meeting. The 4th is, just right after the new year, so I figured we could postpone for a week. So my proposal is to meet on the 11th and then come back in February and get on our regular schedule.
Well, not to throw a wrench in the situation, I won't be available on the 11th.
Or you won't?
No,
Okay.
I did miss my first council meeting as a elected council member because I was at that conference. So it's not like there's not precedent for that before, but I won't be here for the 11th, so I can't do that date.
Okay.
I could do like the Monday of the week of January 18th,
Is that the third Monday?
potentially. Is there something in this room?
Yeah, I think it is.
Or I
the
could do a
third.
Tuesday. I won't be available on the 11th.
Okay, let's, so that'd be January 15th, and I don't believe is that Martin Luther King? Okay. So, the 16th,
What day of the week is that?
Tuesday?
Tuesday?
Does that work, Madison?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, because the conference starts, I believe, on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Wednesday, Thursday, typically.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the time frame is fine for you, Clay?
Yeah,
January 16th?
we'll figure out, we'll try to get the agenda out, the week before,
Okay,
Tuesday or Wednesday the week before.
January 11th is now going to be January 16th.
Right.
Okay.
Tuesday.
Okay, the 16th and the 1st. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
Just to keep in mind, in terms of calendars, and I'll get together with the incoming mayor pro tem, but we usually do like a goal setting session sometime in February, or January, February. So we'll need to probably come back on your December 14th agenda and try to find a date that works for everyone. We've done those, as you recall, often on a Saturday or a Sunday.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's nice to do it like that.
Okay, very good. So moving on to written communications. We've received written communications from the following between November 2nd and November 16th from David Thomas from PG&E, Karen Cunningham, and Michael Abney. Now we are at oral communications number 2. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak at this time? Seeing no hands.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're adjourned.